Hey, good morning, folks. My name is Jeff Fritz. It is February 22nd, 2018. Welcome back to the stream. Sorry for the delay there. I had a couple of things I had to take care of. Um, right as I got started, no less. Gosh, I've been struggling with a couple things here on stream, and I wanted to get some help addressing them. And I've had particularly had some problems, some misunderstandings on my part about how to use continuous integration and how to structure some of those things. So I wanted to bring in an expert. So, the audio got muted on us. Oh no. Now they can hear us. I'm so sorry.
Okay, can you hear me now?
How are we there on stream? Can you hear us now? They can now.
Okay, so I can
Brother.
start over. Perfect. So hi, I'm Oren Novotny. I'm a chief architect at Blue Metal in charge of DevOps and modern software, looking at everything we do on the DevOps space and how we build modern apps. I like to say modern apps is what we build, DevOps is how we do it. Been using VSTS for a very long time, ever since it came out in 2005. So seen the good parts and the bad parts and everything in between.
Everything in between, yeah. So and while we were muted there for a few seconds, um, there I go, not working with OBS properly. That's on me. Um, I've been struggling with using continuous integration properly. I've had a couple of challenges with it, and it just trying to do the simple things. I just want to get my ASP.NET Core project to build. I want to figure out how to deploy it to an Azure service easily. These are things that you've got experience doing, right?
Absolutely. I definitely believe that getting a continuous build done is a core part of every project. It's not something that is just left to the DevOps team. So hugely in fan of getting all developers being able to do a custom build.
I gosh, before I got into doing developer advocacy or program management at Microsoft, I got I got involved, and it was a big thing for me to be talking to our folks in operations, and I realized that those are the folks to be friends with because when when production area goes down or there's a problem, you want them to be nice to you. You don't want them to be angry.
No,
So it's a good thing to
you're
learn how to
already
do.
cranky with that 3 a.m. text, phone call, something. Yeah, being nice is always helpful.
Oh, it's huge, huge thing. All right. So I want to share with you a simple, I think it's a simple sample that I was working on. I'm going to flip over to our code here. And this was a simple sample that I was trying to demonstrate how to use VSTS with. And I've got the basic template here for an ASP.NET Core application. I've got a tag helper that I've written, a couple other things running around in here. Um, and this one has a very simple footer that actually says 2017 in it. Look at that. Tell you what, I'm going to change that to datetime.now.year. And I'm going to put a comment over here, working with Oren. And I'm going to commit that to my source control. So let's do this. I'm going to do a git pull. And then, oh no. Let's see.
I noticed your command prompt is a little bit plain. I think you need some help with that.
Yes, I love using PowerShell for this.
Oh,
um,
You should
Posh.
see Brad Wilson's customizations that I've adopted.
Oh
It
yeah.
puts the branch name in there along with better colors and icons, and it shows you which Visual Studio tool set you have in the path. So if you're
Really?
regularly working between preview and regular, it's perfect.
Oh my gosh.
And
All
you
right.
get purple and blue. It's colorful too.
All right. Let me do a git pull on that. There it is. So now I'm going to let this reload. I'm going to change this to at datetime dot now dot spell year right. There we go. I've got to see those modifications here. I'm going to change this to working with Oren. All right. So now I should be able to git commit and updated with Oren. Right. And now git push. Now, eventually, I want this to kick off a build and deploy.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that by going over to VSTS. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to open my browser. So here's my GitHub repository, and this project in particular, it's just a demo project. We're literally just going to write code in this just to trigger builds.
Yep.
So it's committed. It's sitting up here. No big deal. I've already navigated to VSTS, and I've got it open here. But I want to create a new project here. I've got a team already allocated for it, or maybe I don't. There we go. New project. All right. So I will call this Stream CI Demo, and this is simple ASP.NET Core project that builds with a Linux Docker container. That's kind of important for us to remember. I learned the hard way, didn't I?
Yep. Building Linux containers, best done on Linux.
Yeah. All right, so I'm creating that. So Visual Studio Team Services is going to go and create a project for me. Sandmon, thank you for the follow. Looks like over there on Twitch. Look forward to hearing from you in the chat room. All right.
One thing I love is that VSTS can be used to do any number of things. You don't have to use the source control if you don't want to. Like your code's on GitHub. So you know what? Cool. GitHub's great for open source projects, great for collaboration, but GitHub doesn't have a build tool that I know of yet. So
no, you
if
end
you
up
want to
bringing
build something, you got to pick something.
right. You got to bring in somebody else's tool. I'm going to build code from an external repository, and you can't see it back there, but there's a setup build button. I'm going to click that. I'm going to create a new build definition.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is where I got a little bit confused last time. I do want to connect and pull it from GitHub. All right, so I'll connect to GitHub. Sure, GitHub connection.
I usually use my username just so that I know what credentials it's attached to.
Oh, good idea. And then I should be able to click to authorize with OAuth. Yes, allow it to open the pop-up window. And then we wait. Let me take out my phone so I can do that two-factor authentication bit.
Oh, yes.
It's not loading. All right, try that again. Authorize using OAuth.
Try hitting always allow. Oh.
You might be right. All right, I'll do the always allow.
So it works on my machine.
I know, right? All right, now it opens the first time it goes
there it
right
goes.
in.
Oh, just figured it out. Good.
Yeah.
So
All right,
so
now I need to specify a repository that I'm pulling from. Now I've got a bunch of
if
repositories.
you start typing, it will start complete. It has type ahead. So you can either pick the list and scroll.
Well, actually, the list isn't populating yet because it's still loading my list.
Nice.
Yeah. But it should be something like that. And then my branch should be something like this.
Yep.
Cool. Now the red went away because it found those items.
Yep.
All right. I'll continue. So select a template or start with an empty process. All right. So this is where I got lost a little bit last week because I feel like this is something that should be pretty simple. I've already got it configured to build as a Docker container. Should I choose ASP.NET Core or should I go down here and choose Docker container?
So for this one, there's any number of different ways to build it. If you want to build it with a Docker container, my favorite approach is just to build on the CI exactly what you would do on your local machine. So that's pretty much saying run a script,
Okay.
which we can do that, or we can use any number of built-in tasks that can help. And the tasks can do things like automatically push to an Azure Container Registry, which you may already have, and not have to worry about the authentication bits. So you can often use a combination of both together for that. So I think the approach you were using
Yeah,
was
so
to,
let me try using a container then, because that feels like the least friction.
yeah.
Now, okay, so name for it. Okay, Stream CI demo container. Fine. It's got the preview in there because the container build is a it's a preview task. All right, and then my agent queue. Now I think this is where I messed up before. So my options are hosted, looks like Visual Studio, hosted Linux preview, hosted Mac OS, hosted Visual Studio 2017. Now I had chosen VS 2017. Now you were saying that I shouldn't choose that one. Why shouldn't I choose that one?
So Docker's really cool, and Docker actually works on Windows, but it can also build Windows containers. So the question is, what kind of container are you trying to build? I
Oh,
think by default on the Windows agent, it will default to building a Windows container. Uh,
that makes
you
perfect
can
sense.
you can change that, of course, but
Okay.
uh, it's certainly easier and probably faster to just go with the Linux container and have it just build a Linux image.
Right. So my project to to share over here, this is looking at and is built with a Linux container, right? And here's my Docker file, and this is all specifically targeting and looking for Linux artifacts. So I should probably choose the Linux one over here instead of the Visual Studio one because I am doing a Linux Docker build. Briefly in the chat room, yes, I am wearing the my MVP hat today because the Global Summit is, I think, 10 days away now. And I am frantically finishing plotting dastardly things for folks to do at MVP Summit. It's going to be a great time.
One thing I wanted to point out here in your build steps is that there's nothing Visual Studio tools related in here. You're
Sure.
creating a Linux image. It could be your own hosted agent, that's fine,
Hmm.
or your own VM, totally cool. But the tasks that you're using here are just wrappers, and these are open source tasks that are on the VSTS agents repository. They're wrappers around calling Docker build and Docker run and Docker pack and that sort of thing, and Docker push. Uh, you could do this with a bash script as well, but all of the Visual Studio .NET Core tools are coming from your build container, from your Docker Compose mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing Visual Studio about this.
It's the only thing that is Visual Studio is the user interface.
Yeah, exactly. It's Visual Studio Team Services.
Okay, so the first step is to build an image that it generated for me in this task. So I'll take a look at this first task. So I do want to build an image. My registry type, I do have my own Azure Container Registry out there. Let me choose my appropriate subscription. I've got to authorize that, and I get to sign in. Make sure I sign in properly. And then, yes, I am signing in.
Oh, you need to use the authenticate phone push works so much better. Passwordless sign-in is the future, man.
So I have that set up for all my Microsoft stuff. I don't have it set up for my personal stuff.
Go to top tip. Go to the Microsoft Authenticator app and log in with your Microsoft accounts, and it will enable phone sign-in for those. So then when you push that button, you put in your username, and it'll send a notification to your phone, and you said, "Yep, that's me," and it uses your Touch ID or finger or whatever to
Oh yeah.
no passwords at all. It's great.
All right. That I think I grabbed the wrong subscription. I think it's that one. Or I could be completely wrong and I need to go to the third subscription. And I've got to authorize again, even though it's the same user ID. It's like,
Well, under the covers, it's trying to work on least privilege here. So it doesn't want to create an identity that has too much access.
I get it. I do. But I'm already logged in with the same user ID here, you know? Okay, no results in that one either. I have a registry here. I really do. But it's not finding it anywhere.
You refresh, maybe?
No, it's not in that one. There it is. There's my
Oh,
registry. I knew
we're
it was.
too fast for it.
Yeah, I know. All right, so I do want to build an image, but I have other actions that I can do here. I can tag, push several images, run an image, run a Docker command. So you were saying about you can actually run and shell and
Mhm.
specify a command. If I choose run a Docker command, I can actually specify the command here, huh?
Yep. So, I mean, I like the tasks when especially if I'm learning the system and I'm not sure. Like, I don't know about you, but there's 100 different tools I'm using every single day, and I'm not going to remember dash dash this. What are the commands? What are the arguments? I kind of just want to see the pick list. So that's where the tasks are really helpful. Is just push, and here it'll prompt me for the parameters and fields here.
Give me those 80% scenarios that I can do simply, and if I need to do an advanced task, I have a way to go around it and add those extra commands if I need it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right, so I just want to build with this one. Now,
Yep.
my Docker file, I can actually pick it. So let me do that. I'm going to click there, and it's down in this folder. There it is, Dockerfile. All right. So now I've actually specified exactly where it is, and then I can
If
pass.
you're in the simple case, if you only have one,
Hmm.
that glob would have worked too. Just so you're aware.
Good
Because that
point.
was a star star glob as a recursive search.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
So, but
that's a
if you
good
have
point.
more than one, then yeah, you can specify it if, just to be clear.
Okay, cool. Is that Dubstepper following us now? Thanks for joining us. All right. So I can specify build arguments that I want to send into it. I don't have any arguments that I want to pass into it. My image name. You know what? Instead of calling it my build repository name build ID, let's call this demo with Oren, and that'll be the name of our image. Additional image tags. So the tags are the things after like the version number that are on a image, right? Now, one thing that I hadn't noticed before is include the latest tag.
Yep.
So this will automatically tag whatever I specify, whatever it creates as latest as well. Now, why am I
Yep.
getting a red line here? Is
I
that
think
it?
that's spelling. That's edge
Uh,
thing. It's a text box, and I don't know what that word is.
okay. It.
If it was a Visual Studio Team Services error, I think the whole box would be highlighted red.
Oh yeah, that's probably true. I was just curious because of the red star here. You know.
Yeah, that means it's required. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, images are supposed to be all lowercase. So I wonder
Or
if it's
maybe it's saying, fix
make
that.
make this lowercase. All right. So demo with Oren. Okay. Now it still doesn't like it, and
But we can leave it. It's
yeah.
fine.
Docker host connection. This is okay. So we do want it to run on the agent
Yeah,
and a
these
working
are the
directory.
advanced options, so we can just kind of ignore those, I think.
Okay. I'm gonna click on the second one here. Now it should have saved those things as I
Well,
keyed them in, right? Yeah.
yeah, so it's not gonna, this is a big single page app. It's a spa of this configuration. So you can actually switch between all the tabs. You have variables, triggers, options, and such. If you try to go to another page, like click the releases tab, it'll give you a pop-up and say, hey, you're gonna lose this unless you hit save.
Okay. That's good to know that I'm not forced to constantly hit save as I'm going along here. Okay, so push an image. So sure, let's push the image to an Azure registry. Oh, here we are with the subscription box again. So it was this one,
Yep.
and then my container registry is that one, and then I'm pushing right demo with Oren.
That was one.
Include latest tag. Now that feels like isn't that the same thing that I was doing here? Right? I built the image.
I think we want to make sure one is local. We just need to make sure that we're like, you can tag on Git, you can
Mm,
tag locally, and you want to make sure that you push that tag to your upstream source.
okay. So I've also checked to make sure that we include the latest tag. And I think that's all I need to do. I don't want to go into the advanced things anymore. So I
If you
just,
need it, you can find it.
okay. So I just save and queue it, and it'll kick off the build.
It should.
All right, let's see what happens.
Now, that'll do a one-time build. If you want to enable CI, there is a trigger that you can set, which will add the webhook to your GitHub repository for you.
Okay, so I can click to enable continuous integration, and then I can specify filters.
Like which branch. Now, if you want it to be on any branch, you can just type a star in there instead. So you could have it build, yeah.
So
It's not in
instead
the
of
drop-down list, but you could,
just go like that,
yep,
and it'll build for any one of them and create a Docker image for me.
correct.
So this might be good if you want to have separate configurations that you want to use differently for whether you're building something and you want it to immediately deploy because it's on the master branch, or you're building something and you want it to go into a staging location for evaluation.
Yep.
Okay, all right. So for this one, let's leave this one as just master for right now. And then what
You
other?
separately, you can decide for pull requests. So if it's on GitHub, it's public, and we want to make sure that if you're going to submit some code to me, I want to make sure that these tests are passing. You can decide that you want to build pull requests.
Gotcha. And a question from Isaac in the chat room is, do you need to change variables if you use the star branch specification? That might not be a bad idea if
You
you're
might.
yeah, if you want to build in debug mode some of those other branches.
Yep. And another thing that I tend to do, again, here for simplicity, we're doing a push and a build from the same step. I like to break that up into release management and use environments. Because for in my production or even open source projects, to me, a build is a build. It doesn't go anywhere other than as the output as a build artifact. But then releasing it even to an Azure container, if it's going anywhere, that becomes a release step. So I can take the thing I built, put it somewhere, and I can then put a process around that with the release management tools. And that includes, I can decide there, I can put filters on which branch the build came from. So I don't have to worry about, hey, I'm building everything and I'm always producing something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I might only want my master branch to push to my container registry.
Right.
And I
Okay.
definitely don't want pull request branches to push to my registry.
Yeah. So you would set up separate builds, separate
I,
build definitions for each one of those types of tests and releases that you wanted to configure.
Potentially different builds, but more likely different release definitions, or one release definitions with different environments.
So let's dig into that a little bit. How do I set up a release definition?
So once you have a build,
Yep.
there's a tab at the top there where you can go into the release mode. So in release, and this is what I was saying, you have unsaved changes.
Yeah, let's just save that. I don't want to queue another build. I'm going to click into releases. I told it to save.
Scott points out, Scott Addy here, agrees about the build not knowing about the environments. Yep, exactly. To me, the build is, I always, whether it's dev, QA, staging, prod, I always move the same set of generated artifacts. So I never build for production. I never build for dev. I have a, whatever the binary is, and I might have packaged along related artifacts that maybe it's configuration related, but the deploy is just a promotion step from in release.
Sure, that makes sense. And it's a deploy of a of a hardened test passing release, right?
Hopefully there's tests, but yes.
Okay, so I'm looking at releases here. Now, I haven't gone into this before. So if I wanted to specify how to do a release of this, I guess I get started with a new definition.
Yep.
All right. Holy crow. Okay.
So this is basic. So these tasks are in templates. You can, there's some good ones to start with, or you can always start blank. They might have a Docker one in here. I'm not sure actually.
Well,
Um,
this one looks pretty close. Azure App Service deployment.
so the Azure App Service deployment is primarily there for the MS deploy, web deploy for the Windows-based version of the service. If you're actually trying to deploy a Docker container, you're probably going to want a more Docker-specific task, because at that point you're pushing to the registry, which will then, is linked to the web app.
Okay. So should I even use this, or should I carve that up in the in Azure directly?
What I would say is this: you can say empty process and just a Docker task. I will say this: I'm less familiar with using the release tools and tagging around Docker. Typically, what I generally will do is build the web application zip file, whatever it might be. The zip file is the artifact that gets attached to the build.
Sure.
With Docker, because at that point, the last part of the build step would be publish artifact. So I have a thing attached to the build that I'm using as input. With Docker, the artifact has to go somewhere.
Sure, it goes into a registry.
Right. So we haven't put that there. So it's a matter of connecting the dots.
Okay. So let's start off just calling this Azure.
Yep.
All right. So I'm the environment owner.
QA or prod or something, but yeah, you got it.
Azure prod, because maybe we'll have a staging slot.
Could be.
All right. So what do I close this?
Yeah, that's not as super intuitive, but yeah, that's just what you have there as an environment.
Okay.
What you want to start with though is the artifact. So click Add Artifact, and it'll point at. See, there actually is another artifact type. Sorry, if you scroll down, what you will want here, in this case, scroll down. Sorry, there are 3 more artifact types.
Over up here? Oh, this thing.
Yep.
Gosh.
Azure Container Registry.
Okay.
So we can push specific builds to the registry and use that as input for the deploy. So in this case, we'll pick
my Fritz registry. And I should be able to pick, well, it isn't showing that.
We haven't built one yet.
Well, I queued it. It might not be ready yet.
Sure. We can pick one and then edit it later. So if we want to just move on from here.
Okay, so I will select this one. Sure, that's fine.
Alias, yeah, that's fine. And then in the tasks, you can see where it says in the environment, where
Down
1
here.
phase 0 tasks.
Yep.
Click on that. And now we can decide what we want to do on it. And that's where the plus add a task. What do we want to do here?
Okay.
This would be where there would be a deploy step, or in this case, potentially just a Docker tag, depending on how things are configured.
Right.
What do you want to tag latest here to make sure that it gets picked up, or is it triggering?
Well, we've already tagged it as latest as part of the build. This feels like it would be, right? This would be the pull.
So Smudge202 is asking about using a Docker save during CI, leaving the registry alone until deployment. Maybe. Like I said, I'm less familiar with the CI/CD processes of Docker in this context. Usually, I will do that with a web application package, which as a zip file is a little easier.
Oh yeah, because then you're just going to extract files over on the machine that you're trying to deploy to.
Well, actually, it's even easier because there's a deploy task. I can just say, hey, web app deploy, here's the zip file, go. So conceptually, it's similar. I'm just less familiar with the specifics.
Okay. should I continue through here, or should we go back and see if that build's done?
Let's see if the build is done.
All right, so I'm going to save where we are right now.
One thing that it is also less, it doesn't do, it actually defaults, your name of the release definition is new release definition. You have to edit to play, you have to edit and give it a name. Didn't prompt it for you, it just kind of said new release and there's a little pencil.
Okay.
This
So,
one failed, so.
All right, we have a failure. Now we can click through and see why.
Failure is always an option.
Don't say that to astronauts. Okay, build not retained. Now, I want to see the actual results here. Build an image. It failed the actual build an image step. So scrolling down here, pulled everything in. Copy failed.
It didn't like your solution file in that. So it was building a copy stream demo.sln. Did something rename? This looks like it was in your build image step. In your.
I'm wondering if we have the context a little bit skewed here, right? Like it's trying to run the Docker command and it's in the wrong folder.
It's possible.
Let's take a look here.
You're in your visual. Well.
Let's see. So there's my registry build action Dockerfile. Build arguments. Default build context to the directory that contains the Dockerfile. It needs to be up a folder.
Uncheck that then, maybe.
Yeah. Right, I want it to be at the root folder next to my solution file.
Okay.
So, yeah, sure.
Well, actually, I think what you can do is use that as a variable called default working directory, and it's under, if you're not sure, it's under advanced options.
Where do you see that?
If you scroll down to advanced options, there should be a
working directory.
So that would be the root of your repository in this case.
So I should be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what this task defaults to. That may not even be required, but it shouldn't hurt to have it.
Sure. All right, let's queue that. Let's, I will say changed build context so that I know what we changed on this one.
There's a coded beard is saying we build the container and push it every time, then have the compose file as the artifact, which is updated with the build SHA, then use the compose in the release steps. Okay.
So, hang on. I'm trying to parse that here. You build the container and push it to a registry every time, and then you have a compose file, a Docker compose file, I guess.
I assume so.
And you put the build SHA.
Oh, but he's saying, but that's for Service Fabric.
Okay. And let's see, is that TRL guy 1? That can happen if the context is messed up. Yep, that's exactly what we saw. So, all right. We should see this now. All right, first off, from our...
He's also saying the app service task supports containers, so maybe that's exactly what we want.
Terrific. So, from the previous stream when I was trying to do this, right, and it was building and it was using the Windows container is what I'm now realizing, and it took upwards to 10 minutes just to pull the container in.
It's a bigger container.
Yeah, that container is a couple gigs, so that kind of makes sense to me now. The Azure App Service task. So is that in the releases?
Yeah, so that's what Try is saying there.
It'll give you options if you select a web app from your subscription that is Linux. Okay.
We can do that.
So this is looking good for so far, at least. It was able to copy. Look at that solution file. It copied properly.
Oh, you know where I see where this is kind of going, and it makes perfect sense now that I'm kind of putting the pieces together here. So if you remember, in the web app,
Hmm.
when you create the Docker-based web app containers, there is an option to either specify a tag, and there's a separate option to enable continuous deployment, where it would be polling the
Yes.
container registry to find the matching tag.
Hmm.
And there can sometimes be a delay in there, as you've seen.
Oh yeah.
Well, in this case, that's more of a pull. In this case, the task is, I believe, was what it's going to happen is it's going to do more of a push. So it's saying, okay, turn that switch off. So instead of pointing the web app at the registry directly and saying, hey, go update whenever this tag changes, you're going to use the deploy task to say, deploy, take this tag, this version, and go put this in this site right now.
Okay.
So it's more of a push-based.
And that was in the releases you're saying. Okay,
Great.
so this build completed. So
Perfect.
we're in a better place already. So should we go back to the releases then?
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to
So
go back over here.
you already have the website created, or do we need to go create that?
We need to create that.
So maybe we should do that so that we can complete the release definition steps.
Yeah, and it looks like I didn't save my release definition right here.
No, so you did. It's under new release definition. That's where it literally called it new release definition because the default was that. It's not, yeah, they could.
That's better. All right. So I'm going to go back over to Azure. I'm going to create a new service. I clicked plus. Come on. There we go. All right. App service. And I should be able to find app service with container. Where is it? Web app for containers down here.
Web apps is one of my favorite features of Azure. It's just so easy to do and properly secure a website
Yes.
without having to worry about Nginx or where's that SSL certificate coming from or anything like that. Like anybody, you can have a HTTP endpoint. No, that's easy.
Oh, yeah.
It's securing it that's hard. So App Service has a front end pool in there which handles the SSL termination and internal forwarding to your instance. And also it has internal load balancers and virtual IPs to make sure that it handles all that scaling in a way. As a developer, I just want to say, I don't care.
Oh, yeah. So, all right, I'm going to choose Azure Container Registry as my source. I'm going to pull down the registry and choose the one that we're pushing to. And I should see a demo with Oren image in here. There it is. And now I'll choose latest so that I always get the latest update one. And now I can create. And then this will push to a web app it's running on Linux and it's hosting just a container. And we do have a question in the chat room. Well, can we publish to a VM instead of app container services? We think we know how to do that, and we'll take a look at that in a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the task support running anything Docker can do. So if you can if you know the right commands and have the right authentication mechanisms, absolutely.
Yep. All right, so deployment succeeded. I want to go to that resource. I want to see it. And I'm going to pin this so I can find it later.
Question is remote publishing and IIS for that. I'm not quite following the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, remote publishing would be more for a .NET framework, ASP.NET, and I think that's more... not quite the feature you're looking for. All right, so I click through. It might not be completely deployed yet.
Yeah, it might take a second or 3 or 4 to start up.
Oh, yeah. But it said it published.
Lies.
I know. All right. For VMs, there's deployment groups. Yes. Oh, I'm familiar with that one. But then if you're managing VMs, now you got to manage all the operating system, patching and management and restarts versus this
Platform as
is
a service is your friend, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah, platform
As
as
a
a service.
developer, I want to focus on where I can add the value, and that's adding custom stuff. To
Oh
me,
yeah.
dealing with VMs and patches, that's all the yak shaving that I just don't want to do.
Operation folks are really good at that. As a
Yeah.
developer, let me focus on building applications. So, still waiting for a response. It should be standing up here any second, but it's got to pull that image in and then start it up.
Oh, while we're talking, there's another neat feature you should go see. Uh, Turn on the automatic SSL. So this is a fairly new feature on web apps. If you go to the custom domains tab on the left there under your web app,
So right here, all right.
that there's an option to just HTTPS only, flip that to on, which will automatically redirect any incoming endpoints to HTTPS.
I
It
don't need to buy an SSL certificate or anything. I literally just turn that on and it just
So,
works.
yep, Azure has a default wildcard certificate for anything on star.azurewebsites.net.
Okay. So
So
if
for
I
dev, it's perfect.
but if I have a custom domain, I need to actually get an SSL cert and get that
Yeah,
installed.
and there are site extensions for Let's Encrypt and or bring your own. Absolutely.
So there it is. It's already up and running. There HTTPS demo with Oren Azure websites, and on the bottom,
Perfect.
working with Oren. Fantastic. All right. So we've got
Yeah.
all right. So we've got an initial application built and deployed, and we were saying over here under where's container, the container configuration. There it is. So if I look at this one, so now it's pointing to demo with Oren latest,
Mhm.
and then I've got continuous deployment, automatically deploy a.
So let's not turn that one on here, and here's why. Like anything, there's multiple ways to configure something. You can certainly start with the website, point in your Docker container, and flip that button, and anything will, from any changes from that container will automatically propagate up to the website. That's great, especially if you're using a container hosted elsewhere. Maybe you're not building it, or maybe you're using a different release management process already to control what goes into that registry and it's tagged.
Okay.
In this case, since we want to set up a release management pipeline, we want to be a little bit more explicit about when updates get poked into here. So we'll do that with a task.
Right. Okay.
So that's where if we want to switch back to the release management, we can complete that pipeline over there. The first thing we'll want to do, though, is probably go back to the pipeline section and make sure we're pointing at the right, on the
No.
release tab.
Yep. So I was on the releases.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll go to demo with Oren.
Yep.
And
Double click it or hit edit, I think.
edit.
Yeah.
All right, there we are.
But on the left side under artifacts, remember our artifacts were not there yet.
Right. All right. So.
Okay, so I just delete this one. Delete the artifact on the. Yeah.
And add a new one.
Yep.
All right. Project. No, I wanted to go to Azure Container.
Yep.
Okay. So let me pull down, select my right, and we'll change this. And now I can choose. Oh, there it is. Demo with Oren. All
Source
right.
alien. Fine.
Yeah. All right. So I've got that now. So now it's going to see my artifact. It knows about my environment over here.
Now we should be able to go in and click on that one phase 0 task.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now I need to add something to do.
Yep. First, let's change on the. Well, let's do two things. One, let's change the agent queue to Linux. I think that should, I don't think it matters, but in this case, just running a deployed, we're not building anything. But let's add the plus
Oh, down here.
on the left. So those are under demands right there.
All right.
Add a task, and under deploy, quick app service deploy. That's what try guy.
Azure App Service deploy. All right.
Yep. Saying that it will support the containers. So I have never actually done that with the containers in this task before, but we will explore.
Yeah. All right. So I choose my subscription. I'm using this one. It's I don't. Is there
Linux web app?
All right. And then app service name.
It should find it.
You know what? I think I'm on the wrong subscription.
Okay.
Find it. No.
I have found that sometimes that list isn't always populated. Linux web app. Maybe we'll just type it in and hope for the best. For the name, we'll go the other.
Let me do this. Let's take a look over here.
That's
yeah,
okay.
I didn't change anything there.
Yeah.
All right, so this is just demo with Oren. So let's go over here.
Let's just see what happens.
Okay, so it didn't turn red on me, so it can't be that bad. Registry or namespace. Now I don't have a drop down here.
Ooh, do you have a change the what's under image source?
Where do you see image source?
It's the box. Yep. What are the options? Built-in container registry. Okay, I guess that's.
Yeah, it doesn't see the. It's not giving me an option to choose.
Well, it's fine. Let's see. Root namespace. What's the help test?
So it is fritzregistry.azure.cr.io.
Okay.
Right? A globally unique top-level domain name for your specific registry or namespace. Fully qualified name will be the format registry.
Yeah, for example, there you go.
Okay, so I also need to put on this then. It was demo with. Let me move that. Oren latest. And then my image is, okay, demo with Oren. Right? Is it trying to highlight? Oh, it just wants the stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it just wants the first part.
Gotcha. All right, so let's delete this. And then this should be demo with, spell it right. Demo with Oren. Tag latest. I don't have a startup command.
You may not need one because it's built into the image, right?
No.
So service URL, that's just output into variables. So we can try it, see what happens. Worst that happens is that we'll error out.
App service URL. Specify name for the output variable that is generated for the.
So if you're running multiple steps and you want to get the URL out for use in another build step, you can tell it, hey, put that URL in this variable. Is it?
All right, so I clicked save.
At this point, we can click just release, see what happens.
Create release.
Worst that happens is it releases the same image, but it shouldn't matter.
Select the version for the artifact sources for the release.
So click the drop down on the right.
All right. I'll choose.
Or doesn't, yeah. And now if you click on where it says release 1 on the green bar, it will open up a new tab and we can watch it.
We can watch it deploy.
Yep, so we can click on the logs button. It's probably the best screen to be on the top, on kind of the, yeah, that one.
All right. So here's, I click through. I was just on the logs and it clicked me back. Oh, there we go. All right.
Martin Woodward has joined us.
Hey, look at that.
Surely Martin knows what to do here. Hey, Martin, that's the first time I'm doing containers with release management. This is probably something you do in your sleep.
Waiting for an agent. Come on.
There should be like some kind of entertainment on the screen. I think that's maybe that's something for an Easter egg, like maybe Tetris or something. Like, come on.
All right, what the heck just happened here?
Waiting for an agent.
Yep, waiting for an agent to come on down. Well, okay, agent phase initialize, job initialize agent, so...
Come on.
What's on that tab? Ooh! I've gone somewhere else.
But we could always try changing to the Windows agent. I don't think it really matters for this. The reason it was an issue for building it was that it was defaulting Docker to which image to do it.
Gotcha.
Thanks for the clarification, Martin. We have the absolute expert here.
Very cool. Thanks for joining us.
Maybe Chris, so have we done this the right way with release management for Docker in this case? While we're waiting for the agent?
Waiting. And we're waiting.
I think we definitely need some Tetris going on here.
Tetris or Space Invaders or something.
Oh, Chris's chat just died, by the way, apparently.
Wonder if it's connected to the console output over here.
Maybe let's, Try refreshing the page. Sometimes it doesn't show up in the UI. So maybe a control refresh or a control F5.
Let's do a quick refresh here. Oh, there we go.
So look, we just didn't know. So let's see. Let's click on that last step there to see what the console output actually looked like.
All right. Successfully updated deployment history at okay.
So now the real trick will be let us make a change and see. Like that was a manual deployment, but we can't really tell because the
content's still the same. If I refresh this, it should still work, and it still shows the same thing here. So yeah, let's go make a change and push it up and see what happens. So I'm going to go into the index, and I'm actually just going to remove the carousel here, because even though everybody loves a carousel, we don't really need it up there.
I only want my carousel if it has horses and elephants on it.
All right, so I'm going to save that, and I'm going to go back over here.
Chris is confirming that we should have been correct, so we'll find out.
Let's say removed carousel.
I have to say this, learn something new every day, absolutely, and hey, I'm learning Docker with release management and VSTS with the rest of you, so.
Oh yeah. All right, so I'm going to click back over to build.
Never stop learning.
So I just pushed up that build to GitHub.
So we should see you turned on the trigger before.
Yep.
So
Updated
it,
seconds ago, so we should see this pick up in just a few seconds and start building.
I, I don't know if this page is real time. You might need to click on the definition. Oh, Martin has pointed at a DevLabs extension called Galactic Dodge, which puts Space Invader-like thing in VSTS.
So it looks like it did just pick up, and you're right. When I refreshed, it showed me that it was building. Um, I
So
hate
maybe
to.
an idea for the future, maybe the builds tab can be a little bit more like get some Signal R in there or HTTP2 push and push that update in real time, maybe.
Um, After this builds, I think I'm going to need to cut short here a little bit. I've got an emergency situation happening that needs my attention. So let's see if this builds, and then we should be able to click the release and actually push that release out to the website.
Okay.
So,
And Chris shared a link that covers this particular scenario about deploying the web app with containers, including the, so he's showing set up the
with the
container.
Docker release.
Yep, create and shows the build and release definition. So that's super helpful.
Cool. All right, there we go. So now it's going through the steps of my Docker build that I expect to see and I normally see when I build locally. And I'm seeing similar performance in this part after it gets the image and it's working locally on my machine. So, yeah, this part sure does feel familiar. Okay, that's out at Oren, the sirens. All right, there we go. So finished phase 1, build succeeded. Fantastic. So if I go to, if I still look at my application and refresh, it still shows the current version that was out there. Nothing's changed.
Correct.
But if we looked and we said, and we verified that the release was appropriate, I could go into this and tell it to do a release.
So there's two things to do. Right now, I don't believe we set up an automatic deployment, but
Right.
you can. But
Right.
yes, you can create a release, or if you go to edit, we can turn on the automatic release.
Over here.
Yep.
Okay.
So click on that and click on the lightning bolt next to the artifact.
Next to the artifact. Okay.
And that's
Oh,
a
continuous deployment.
Exactly. So that says when this thing changes, just create a new release.
Mm.
Now
Okay.
it's too late for this time because it
Sure.
already exists.
But for next time.
Exactly.
All right. So I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to click save here, and I'm going to say configured continuous deployment.
But you can see there's also other options like a schedule. So you can say, hey, every night at 3 a.m, do create a release, and I know we don't have time for it here, but there's all kinds of options about pre and post deployment gates. So you can chain environments together here to really put a pipeline together across environments.
So always push a new build out to my QA environment and give a way to sign off on that, and then push that to the stage environment and do that type of
And but it
operation.
could be manual approval. You can have it based on automatic metrics from the Azure Health Monitor, or you can have it based on a webhook or a Azure function. So there's a lot of different options to try to get this together depending on your needs.
Okay. So I'm gonna trigger a new release here.
And Chris is pointing out that there are also variables that are set for the artifact, so you can use that tag that triggered this release in the deployment.
Okay.
Instead of locking to a specific tag.
So I'm going to say release the latest, and the release description, we remove the carousel, and we should see, so that release was created. I'll click into it, and we should see information about it. There it is. It's in progress already. Now you said go over to logs.
Well, if you want to see it, yeah.
I want to watch. So there, okay, so it's pushing to Kudu, getting connection details for Azure App Service, demo with Oren. And that was quick.
That's what it should be.
Yeah, because it's all in Azure. All right.
But
So
in this case, it's not even really moving binaries around. It's just pointing configuration here and there.
so now if I refresh this page, right, I should see it didn't I don't see an update. Right, we should have seen the carousel go away.
You would think.
Right? Because that was removed.
That something is cached somewhere.
Let's see. So let's just force a cache buster on the end there. Nope. Nope. Let's click into... Right, so some of these other pages work and show the content I kind of expect. Let me do a Control-Shift, F5. No, I'm not getting it reloading with new content.
It should show the deployment history on the Azure web app. So the Azure web app should show...
that a deployment happened.
Yeah.
Would that be in the activity log then?
On the web app for Linux, I'm less familiar. I know there's definitely one that it shows the steps for. Deployment credentials, quick start. I wonder if you need to restart it. The only thing I wonder in this case, because we're not, as Chris was saying, we're not pointing to a different tag, we're still latest, it may not have detected that anything changed. So it didn't necessarily reload anything. So, like...
Yeah, suggesting forcing tag 18.
So the point is, because the tags can be, for the container can be passed in there, it would set 18 into the trigger exactly. So set 18 there, which would normally be done with a variable instead. And that would force App Service to say, hey, something changed, let me go reload. It may not, latest may have been just, hey, it doesn't know that anything changed under the covers. There's no delta in the properties.
It sees the same thing.
That's my guess here.
All right, so rerunning, and this should be quick.
Should be.
There it is. All right, so it initialized, getting connection details for Azure App Service, and looks like it finished.
Okay.
So I'm looking for the Docker.
A quick cheat sheet. If you scroll up there, you can see all of the system variables that are available. And there's a documentation page that, these are documented into what you can use in your environment. But I find it helpful to see here that, was stuff what I expected it to be.
Right, and I'm looking for that Docker container, and I'm looking for that registry, and I don't see it.
It's there somewhere, but let's see if
I'm just looking for Azure CR. It doesn't show my...
There it is. Release artifacts. Oh, build number, build ID, definition ID. Oh.
There's my description.
Let's see if the page updated. Well, it should have been done by now.
No.
No. Oh, I wonder, did we, in the release step, we're not using the variable there either. I wonder, it's still tagged. So if you go to edit, under the one task, yeah.
So it's still saying tag.
Tag latest. I think we should probably be using a different variable here, right? I'm assuming.
Okay.
To be explicit about it.
So should we change this to just hard code it to 18 for right now?
We can try that.
But you were suggesting that it may come in from a variable.
Yeah, I believe I get Chris was saying that as well. I just don't recall.
Right. How do we format and get that variable into here?
VSTS.
Chris is saying refresh that page. Referring to this one? Nope, that didn't update. So I can add okay, so I have the variables tab here.
I thought there was one that was automatically set. Those are extra ones you can add.
Yeah, predefined variables. Is there a build number?
There is a build number one. So if it happens to match, but.
Right, I'm thinking that build ID should match between the two, not definition ID. Here it is. Release artifact alias build ID. Use $build.build.id is what. Alright, so let me get rid of that.
If we're using the build ID as the tag, then you should be able to use that as the tag we're actually deploying of the build.
Alright, so let's come down here. Let's change this to $, and in parens build.build ID.
Yep.
Save that.
So do that, because that's the task. So that'll push. So here's, because this is the value that's actually getting written to the web app, because this is what's getting configured in this task. When you configured latest before, that's just what to use as the input to this.
Right. All right. Let's take one look at this, and then yeah, I've got to drop off here. I've got something I really need to take care of. Oh, love it when life happens during the stream. All right, logs, and we should see this when the agent is available. Wow, that was quick.
Okay. No errors. I like that.
Gotta like that.
For the win, hopefully, maybe.
No. Oh, now it's taking a little bit.
Oh, there. It took
it's
a second for it to pick up and reload, and there you go.
So just to prove it, I'm going to do so that you can actually see it, because it's hiding right up there.
I guess the magic here, as Chris was pointing out, is use an explicit tag in that publish step, so that so that the app service itself picks up that there is a change and reloads it.
Because it doesn't see the change because it's looking at latest, and latest, even though in the container registry is pointing somewhere else, app service doesn't know it's pointing to something else.
Exactly. And why should it? It's one of those things. Latest is super helpful when you're doing things like interactively on a command line. When you're doing a build, get me the latest version as of right now of this container as I'm doing this container build, or locally, whatever.
Yep. All right.
When you're publishing, it's better to be explicit about those things, and automation tools like this can help, so that it's not you don't have to remember the number; it just flows along.
Yeah. Well, I've got to end the stream there. Thank you so much for helping out, Oren. This this solved that issue I was having the other day. We didn't quite get to that scenario of how do I deploy to a Linux VM that's already out there and running. I'm going to have to come back and take a look at that another time. Like I said, I've got an emergency happening that I've got to go take a look at and take care of. But I will archive this video. I will get it onto YouTube a little bit later today. Thank you so much, once again, Oren, for joining me. You can read more from Oren on Twitter at Novotny. Do you have a blog out there or something that folks should check out?
Oren.codes.
Gosh, that's easy. All right. Thanks so much, folks. I'll see you on Saturday morning for my next stream. Take care.